All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome into today's edition of In the Game. I am your host, Hustle, and as always, we will be diving into the world of NFT gaming today as we have a very, very special guest joining us today, the CEO of Polygon Studios, Ryan Wyatt. Obviously, if you watch the show, you know I'm very high on everything they are doing from a partnership standpoint, from gaming into real-world integration into some of these businesses that they're partnering with. So we'll have Ryan on, and we'll talk about everything revolving around Web3 gaming and Polygon Studios in this edition. So this is going to be an amazing show. Be sure to like the video. And as always, let's get in the game.
T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
If you ain't here to hustle, why is you here? But if you here to hustle, the moon is near. It's crypto Banter, not financial advice. If you don't listen, what's the cost, what's the price? This ain't a game, put you on game. I know you gon' play, but ain't a percent. If you ain't here to hustle, why is you here? But if you here to hustle, the moon is near. It's crypto Banter, not financial advice. If you don't listen, what's the cost, what's the price? This ain't a game, put you on game. I know you gon' play, but ain't a play. If you get lost, show you the way.
All right, and let's get into it. And as mentioned, like the video if you enjoy the video and subscribe to the channel for videos here every single day on Crypto Banter. And shout out to our sponsors, MEXC, the official exchange of the In the Game show. You can find a link down below in the description to get some more information on MEXC. Unix, one of the leading Web3 infrastructures in all of crypto gaming, as well as our newest partner, one of the biggest giants in all of Web3 gaming, and that is Animoca Brands. I mean, from venture capitalists to incubating projects, you know, top to bottom, Animoca Brands is one of the biggest powerhouse names in Web3 gaming, and we are happy to bring on Animoca as one of our newest sponsors. And now let's, get that out of the way and bring on our guest for today, as I'm super excited to bring on Ryan Wyatt. Ryan, how are you today?
Good. Thanks for having me on. How are you?
Yeah, of course. I'm doing awesome. Happy it's Friday, but as we said in this space, it doesn't feel like it matters. And,
Dude, it does not, my friend. It does not. We're always on. And look, if this doesn't work out for you, I think you got an esports commentator opportunity in the future with the way you run it here. So
there we go. Hey,
yeah.
I'm all about it. I can pull up at the Call of Duty League and be right next to Merc and Maven.
That's
if
right.
I need to.
Yeah, you can skip the McDonald's application line, man. We'll get you into esports.
There we go. I love it. So anyone who might be living under a rock or might not know some of your history, because I feel like if you're into Web3 gaming more so, you were really excited whenever you saw you coming into the space, particularly.
Yeah.
So if you want to give some of your background to someone who might not be too familiar with who Ryan Wyatt is, your background, and not only Web2 games, but how did you bridge that over and come over to the Web3 side?
Yeah, so in my teens, I competed in Counter-Strike and then played Call of Duty and commentated Call of Duty. And then what we know is kind of the creator economy, the early days of it. So I worked at a company called Machinima when YouTube was in its infancy. People were starting
Classic.
to upload all kind of clips. Really helped kind of monetize YouTube. Went over to YouTube and started the gaming vertical and ran that for 8 years. YouTube gaming is the second biggest vertical on YouTube. It's a multi-billion-dollar business. Grew that out globally, and then it was around when we launched things like mobile ads and then alternative monetization to ads. And so that was my whole kind of career in the creator economy side. Got into Web3, beginning of last year as an investor. So I had just a lot of people that I really respected that were leaving prestigious game studios to go start their own games in their own studios. And, like, oh, we're working on, blockchain-based games, Web3 games. And I was like, this is interesting. Tell me more. And so I started angel investing in a number of Web3 games and platforms. And then also I'm a venture partner at BitCraft, where they have a pretty large crypto fund, and a lot of that is aimed at gaming investments. And so I wanted to just finally come over to the space full time. And so the reason I went to Polygon was I was just a really big believer that Ethereum is going to kind of be the bedrock of Web3. It's not to say that other L1s won't have a place in this world, but Ethereum's already has critical mass of developers and user ecosystem. Right. And so I was like, how do I kind of work and get involved in that space? And so wanted to be at a platform where they were doing a variety of things. And so I zeroed in on Polygon because they spent $1 billion on their ZK tech. And so they had a long-term solution on how they were going to be able to scale dApps on chain. And, came over into Polygon Studios as the CEO. And Polygon Studios originally started as kind of like gaming and NFTs. It now serves as our entire business function of Polygon. And so whether we're working with DeFi companies or games companies or music companies or big Web2 companies, kind of all sits within the Studios team. And it's been awesome. Love being here. I think my time in the creator economy, there's a lot of eerie similarities in what's happening in Web3 with the developer ecosystem and platform enablement and like the whole nature of decentralization. And so it's been fun. It's been fun to make the jump over, man. I'm loving it. And obviously games is a huge passion of mine, and it's a huge vertical and core focus for Polygon.
Yeah, that's amazing to hear. I love the background, and I think it brings just a lot of credibility to Web3 gaming, to everything that, Polygon's doing, and with the partnerships and the level of games that are starting to really show interest and start to flock to Polygon. I think it speaks for itself. And if I can ask you in particular, being so involved on the Web2 side of things, what part of Web3 gaming caught your eye so much?
I think like this, it's like there's 3 billion gamers in the world. And I'm just like in general pretty fascinated with new opportunities to create different kind of games. And so I always look at and still do look at Web3 or blockchain based games as kind of like a new tool in the product stack for game developers so that they can tap into the users and gamers in a different way. So that was one thing. And then I just really believe with the amount of money that we're spending on digital items in games and that's not decreasing at all, that inevitably there will be this expectations of rights over those digital items that don't exist today that people are going to want as they continue to allocate a disproportionate amount of their money into this. And so that, there are elements of that which you can recreate in kind of a faux Web3 environment in Web2, but it's really the spirit of Web3 of digital ownership and how important that is and how integral it is. And so it was kind of like the convergence of two of these things. And I kind of look at it as, even if Web3 games or blockchain based games serve 10 to 20% of the total addressable market of gamers, you're talking, 300 to 600 million gamers. Like it's a meaningful amount of people. And so I like the challenge. I like the exploration. I like the potential new and interesting use cases that you can make for gamers. And so it's fun. I enjoyed YouTube. Like a lot of people, when I first kind of went down the road of YouTube, people were like, no one wants to watch people play video games. Like that's what a terrible idea. People play video games. Why in the world would they want to watch? And I was like,
right.
I think people would be interested in that. And instead of being like, you couldn't just show them PewDiePie right away, right? And so because of that, people were like, see, nobody wants to watch it. And so I saw a lot of similarities in Web3. They're like, show me a Web3 game that really makes sense that I want to play. And it's like, yeah, I can't right now. The idea is we're going to keep building and iterating towards it, and we'll get there. And so for me, I kind of had this vision of where things are going to go over the next decade. And I just think of it as a wonderful category and subsection of the games industry that's going to unfold.
Yeah, that actually leads me right into my next question perfectly. Where do you think we fall in the subset of the gaming industry? Do you think that this becomes one of the core pillars of the gaming industry, NFT gaming and ownership, in-game collectible items? Where do you see it eventually falling in that long-term scope of the industry?
It depends on like what lens you're putting on it. Like if you think about it from players versus money, my answer is different. I think the amount of players that we see in Web3 games will be like 10 to 20% of that total addressable market.
Makes sense.
I think the revenue over like 5-10 years from now, it could be like 30-40% of games revenue that the industry is accounting for is actually happening on chain. And that's because I have this kind of belief that, if you look at the free-to-play model, it's largely driven by whales, right? It's whales. It's like people with money and people with time. That's like how free-to-play really works if you had to distill it down in a very, very simple way.
Yeah.
And I think what will happen is certain games are going to come out that are really going to appeal to people with money, right? And they're going to start to shift over and they're going to play those on-chain games. They might not really care about decentralization. They might not really embrace kind of the spirit of what we talk about, but they're like, great, I have ownership over this. I can trade them. I can rent them out. I can sell them again. And that's the kind of rights I want to have. And because I have those rights, I'm willing to put more liquidity into these digital assets as well. And I think if you see a shift of these kind of whales coming over into this, into blockchain-based games, it puts a lot of pressure on the free-to-play model in Web 2 for them to reevaluate it. And so I think there will be this paradigm shift as you see kind of people with money starting to shift over. And then I also think some of those games more and more are on the horizon now too. Like you look at 21 and 22, a lot of the games, financialization first. A lot of these games with play to earn have, Ponzi-nomics, whether it's malicious intent or not. Like I think a lot of people made these games not trying to be malicious. It's just you don't understand how all like making a game in these free economies work and how you balance the tokenomics. Like there's a lot of factors that make it's hard to make a game as it is, let alone when you try to add a true, genuine economy that is very hard to influence as a game developer. And so I think you saw that was kind of like V1 of Web3 games, and it's pretty underwhelming, to be honest with you. But I think we learned a ton from that V1 iteration, and now people are taking kind of the best elements of some of that, bringing it into new games, and you're starting to see a lot of really good talent from a game development standpoint come in here. So it's going to take time. Like my horizon when I kind of joined the space was over like a 5-year time frame. These things. It's not here now. It's actually, you're just going to kind of be iterative and keep going out. But I look at our games lineup, man. We have some game. I don't think by the way, I'm like not a big believer that games have to be like AAA high fidelity to be successful. Like I come from YouTube where Minecraft ran the table for a decade. And that game when it first came out was rudimentary to the fullest. Right. But it did cool things like open it up to a broad age range. It really democratized development as you could do mods and different stuff to keep the game engaging and fun. And so, but I also appreciate like high-end games that are coming in, in UE5. We have Midnight Society. It's like Dr. Disrespect's game. Dead Drop's coming out, right? Super polished. Look at you. You were ready, man. I didn't even prep you for that.
You already know.
That was very impressive. I'm not going to lie, that transition. It's like you're like a producer. I
always have them ready
for that, right? Like I feel like they're like striking a good balance, the way that they're kind of working with the NFT and allowing people to have kind of exclusive access and be a part of the development process. And so we just have like a lot of really fun games that are on the horizon that I think I really want just games that are going to appeal. Like who cares if they're, who cares if it's on chain or not? Just it's a fun game. Go have fun. You're a token, you're buying items, like all that stuff, and enjoy it. And so, Metalcore is another one that's dope. Wild Cards coming up as well too. I mean, we've got a lot of good Derby Stars, which was on Terra, coming, and so I'm really excited about our games lineup.
Yeah, the games lineup is super impressive, and I do want to ask you, coming from the YouTube gaming side of things, I believe earlier maybe one of those influences on the Web3 side of things could have been Dr. Disrespect, right? Working on this Web3 game and with this studio. Did you play any role in the factor when he came over to YouTube gaming? Was that anything that, you were potentially a piece of, the recruitment for Dr. Disrespect to YouTube? And then what's that been like, back and forth with Doc on building on Polygon?
So I've known Dr. Disrespect for like almost 12 years. So he was one of the first creators we worked with at Machinima. So this is, 2010. So like 11 or 12 years now, right? And when he was doing Dr. Disrespect, and then he dropped that thing, right? He was like, it's like I'm not making enough money. And I gotta go have a career and work. And so he went and worked on Call of Duty titles. And so I've known him for a very, 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 very long time. And so it was great to see him come to YouTube gaming, obviously.
Super cool.
Killing it there. And love that he's doing kind of this Web3 games initiative. He's always kind of been ahead of the curve, man. So it's like just one of many indicators of people that do a good job drowning out a lot of the noise, right? Like there's a lot of noise of people backlashing against it. Some of it's super fair, right? Because it is so early days. Like we don't have a lot of great products to showcase gamers and all of that. But I do like, it was great to just continue our decade-long relationship and building the game on Polygon. And I think they're going to do a great job. And that team is good. Like Quinn, Robert Bowling, like they got some absolute shooters on that team. So
definitely.
And there's a lot of really good talent that has left Web 2. Like the thing about gamers in general, they're not like following like prominent game developers, right? Like who the big names are that are making the games. They follow the publishers and studios, right?
Of
so
course.
they're like, oh, I know Infinity Ward's making Call of Duty. But I've seen a lot of like A+ talent leaving, Activision, Blizzard, Riot, EA, starting studios that are blockchain-based games.
Coming over here,
I'm stoked for that.
That is amazing. Yeah. And like you said, it's the stuff between the lines that the people don't pay attention to, the core people behind some of these studios and games. And I will agree, the talent, even publicly, like top level, not even just developer wise, etc., in the trenches, the names that we're seeing coming to the space, definitely hard to ignore, that adoption that's coming in. And, the time period that it plays out to actually build quality games. And there's, niches for everything. There's mobile games that'll have their own timeline, AAA games that'll have their timeline, side scroller, just window based PC games that'll have their timeline. So it's going to be exciting to see how it plays out. And with this being so recent, we'll keep it on the game side really quickly. I believe Sandbox also migrated their assets majority over to Polygon recently. So
that was awesome. That was huge.
That's obviously huge. And, Sandbox, I think it'd be foolish to say that they're not in the lead at the moment in the metaverse category, right? Where do you
that's
see
a great company, great team.
Yeah, where do you see, obviously, Sandbox is going to be probably one of the bigger brands and products in that space for years to come. How did that partnership come about with Sandbox and bringing them over from, the chain that they were on to primarily launch on Polygon and be able to use that technology to really, increase efficiency, lower the gas, and, all things that Polygon can present?
Yeah, like even taking a step back, like what we're seeing and what's going really well for Polygon is we're hitting like meaningful network effects, right? So at the end of the day, whenever you're like building something, it's already hard to build stuff in general, right? And be successful. And so you want to like mitigate as much as you can. And so you want to be where like users are, you want to be where developers are. And so like, boom, Ethereum, right? Like you have that. So then you're like, okay, how do I actually like build in a way that I can scale? How do I associate my experience with other things that are happening? And so it's kind of like a force multiplier and it's snowballing now, right? We've got Facebook, we've got Stripe, we've got DraftKings, we have Tilting Point, we have all these like big companies that are building, but then you have all these incredible like Web3 native projects. Sandbox is a great example, Zed Run, Crypto Unicorns, Derby Star, Dead Drop, Metalcore, Wildcard, all these badass games that are coming over the space. And so what happens is like, as a game, you just want to be associated with that, right?
Yeah.
And so I think they get it. They come over. They're doing an incredible job. I mean, like we're really proud to have them on the platform and be partners with them. I think they, again, can't speak highly enough of that team. And so what we're starting to see is just like meaningful network effects where no better way to reduce your risk of deploying a game than to do it on Polygon, because you now know we have a solution to scale, right? With our ZK EVM. And like people, and I know I won't get like too technical, but basically the TLDR is we solved Polygon's personal product challenge of being able to scale meaningful transactions per second, still keep gas costs low, and build a massive developer ecosystem of decentralized apps. Like, check. So we got the long-term product vision sorted out. We got to launch and execute. Like, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. I don't want that to seem small, but that's a huge thing that we solve for. So then you're like, okay, what do you got to do now next? We got to keep getting some of the best partners in the world building on Polygon. Yeah. And look, I'm biased, obviously, but based on partnerships alone, objectively speaking, Polygon, I think, is far and away leading in this space, particularly in the Web 2 space, and certainly with some of like the native Web 3 games. The other thing, too, is I think a lot of people have learned very quickly after Terra's collapse of, man, there is a cost to build on an alt L1. Like, you don't know, like there will be alt L1s for sure going to be a part of this ecosystem forever.
Of course. Yeah.
You just don't know though, right? Like you just don't know which ones, right? And so these projects that build on Terra, which seems so certain, so sure, now all of a sudden have to like completely rebuild from the bottoms up. And they're like, I will never not be EVM compatible, right? So like I am going to be on an EVM chain, full stop, lesson learned, not going to happen, right? Because when you build on another alt L1 and it's not, you're taking that risk. You now inherit the risk of the platform itself, the L1 as well, too. And so with an EVM one, you don't even have to like, you're not even inheriting any Polygon risk because you're like, oh, this is fine. I'll like, if I got to move it somewhere else, I can, right? And I have that possibility. And so we just had, I think, a handful of things that have happened that, you know, some have been the winds, like the wind and the direction favoring us.
Right.
Other than like timing of the product, you know, we spent $1 billion last year acquiring all these EK companies. And then also the BD team. Like we've got a team of basically people with really strong Web2 pedigree, you know, from the Unities and Activisions and Facebooks and Google and Meta and all these different things, right? And then mixed with this like incredible Web3 native team too. And so just like there's a lot of information sharing and we're able to come to the table and really get the big hitters to come with us. Disney's a great example, right? Like Disney could have anybody in the world they want be a part of their accelerator program. And you know, Disney looked at every single company.
Absolutely.
And they chose Polygon as the only blockchain. Like this is Disney, guys. Also a CEO who says the metaverse is a huge part of Disney's future. And so, you know, it's kind of like people always say, follow the money, like follow the smart people, right? And I think that's kind of what's happening for us.
I agree completely. No, I think the partnerships are so exciting, and with the IP behind brands like Disney, right? With the future potential of not just Meta, but the entire industry that could lead behind it. Like you said, with Stripe, all the top tier quality games that are coming to the platform. So, I mean, obviously, I think all the signals are there that you guys are one of the main players in Web3 gaming and infrastructure, blockchains, you know, ZK capabilities, the whole nine. I think it's a whole toolkit for blockchain games to come launch on Polygon. What are, you know, some things over the next 5 years? Where do you see Polygon evolving as far as into these brands, into these games? And what would you say is the long-term vision? Because a lot of these partnerships, obviously from a surface level, are super ambitious. What can we expect to see from Polygon integrating and, you know, rolling out these partners and, you know, on that long-term vision, maybe 5-10 years down the line? What can we expect to see from Polygon?
I think here's the thing, like Polygon Studios right now, its job is to advance the Polygon ecosystem, right? Like that's what we do. At some point, we won't be needed anymore, right? And I say that because all of the tooling will be there, marketplaces will be there, wallet will be there, on-ramps will be there, all the developers will already be building there. And so 5 to 10 years from now, I would love to just see this. It'll just be this decentralized ecosystem that is able to run, you know, have maybe a community DAO, that's like kind of, you know, working through everything. And I really like, that's what success looks like. That is our North Star, right? Like we, you know, obviously right now in its infancy, you need to be able to help it along, you know, scaling resources so that people understand how to build, best practices, you know, making sure like you're educating and evangelizing on Web3, like making sure people understand Polygon as we get up some of these, you know, the protocol and advance the product. But in a beautiful scenario, man, you know, we do so well at our job, we work ourselves out of even never needing studios. Like that's what I want to see 5 to 10 years. I want to be able to just observe it from the outside and be like, look at this thing. It's like this like self-sustaining organism that is controlling, because then you won't need anything, right? Like what will you need then? You just like, you build on Polygon, you've got all the tool sets, you've already got the people there. You know, it's like you don't like in a traditional world of Web2 where you need this like ongoing like BD team and business team to like keep this thing going. Like look at Google, like they got to keep selling ads, right? For the business to be doing well. You can't automate that. Like people have to knock on doors, convince people to build on Google. I would just love to see Polygon just drift out of the sea and just be this vibrant top 3 ecosystem. You know, it's like ETH, Bitcoin, Polygon, and it's rolling and operating. And I think we'll get there. And I think like, as long as we continue to say that's our vision, we'll get there.
Yeah, I think the short term even speaks for itself. The amount of momentum over the last 4 months, even over Polygon, has been tremendous. Just the amount of development, people coming in to build, choosing Polygon, you know, from top tier games, brands, from yourself coming over from YouTube gaming into the Web3 side of things. I think it all speaks crazy volumes on the conviction behind, you know, Web3 gaming and what Polygon's doing. And I think it's safe to say you guys will be one of those, you know, top ecosystems within Web3 gaming for many years to come. Before we close out the show, I could probably keep going for ages, but I know, you know, time is of the essence in this space. So what could you leave people with? What would be your final thoughts here as far as anything regarding Polygon, Web3 gaming, where things are going, and then where can people find you as well?
So twitter.com/quiz FWIZ is where I get all my updates. What you should expect from Polygon is like, we're aware that like the POS product is like where it's at today is good enough for the current state of Web3. We're so excited to show you guys the zkVM test nets, get that rolled out, and show you really the future of how we actually think scaling is going to happen. It's not the POS chain, and we have this great future of how we're going to scale. We're also really excited to keep investing in native Web3 developers. So we launched another fund with SuperLayer. SuperLayer is like top notch. So like we're going to keep investing in builders left and right. Like that is not going to stop. And we also are going to make sure we bring the Web2 companies into the masses. Sometimes I understand people are like, no, that's why we left. No, like Web3, we want it to be like the whole part of Web3 is inclusivity. And so we want to bring everybody to the table. And no company will be better than Polygon bringing Web2 companies to Web3. Mark my words. And I'm excited to keep sharing more and more as we come. And maybe we'll do a postmortem in like 6 months' time and talk about kind of progress we made from this podcast to the next one.
You know, I'm definitely down for that. And if the next 6 months are anything like the last couple of months, I think that the project, the progress, everything will have evolved tremendously. So once again, I love everything that y'all are doing at Polygon Studios, and it's been a pleasure having you on. I really think that you joining the space is a huge catalyst for the future for Web3 gaming and for Polygon Studios, of course. So thank you for joining me today, and we'll definitely have you back on in the future. I think that
I love it.
If we just talked about the industry, right? If I just opened up the rabbit holes, I think we could probably go on for forever. But
hours. Yeah, it's the best part about being it. No, thanks for having me. Thanks to you and your community for like also advancing it. This is like a group effort. We're kind of all in this thing together. So
of course,
appreciate you. And I know you put a lot of time to put this content together and educating people and evangelizing yourself. So thanks for all the work you do as well.
I appreciate it. Well, guys, if you enjoyed the video, if you enjoyed Ryan coming on the show, spilling some value on Web3 gaming and Polygon, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for shows here every single day on Crypto Banter. I'll be back on Monday with another show, guys. As always, play well, my friends. We're out of here.